What is up? It has been about a month since my last upload, but things have gotten kind of crazy, obviously, with what's going on in the world. And my actual job, my 9 to 5, I am a college coach, so it's been kind of crazy, but we finally kind of slowed down and gotten into the swing and the routine of things. So decided to make a quick video. The fishing is getting a little bit better. I've only been able to get out like once or twice, but temperatures are falling here in Nebraska. So what that means for us right now is northern pike. Obviously the bass are starting to getting a little bit fed up with a lot of the baits that they've been seeing probably coming past their face for the last 2.5 months. There's been more people out fishing than ever before, which is good, but it's getting kind of hard in the transition into fall. But right now, my main focus is getting ready for the northern pike season. They're going to start moving around, getting hungry, getting fast and furious, and getting a little bit more accessible for someone like me who doesn't have a boat. So we're going to go and make a northern pike based crankbait with this block of poplar. So a bigger, we'll say, might be kind of flat-sided, but at the same time, just a big, shallow crankbait, large profile. I got a belt sander I'm super pumped about. This thing is freaking sweet, so it's going to help tremendously when I make my lures. But yeah, first thing we're going to do, I'm going to draw out a shape on this piece of paper. We'll glue it to the wood, and then we're going to get to moving. So it's going to be pretty big, pretty large profile, probably the size of my palm, and then we're going to make it happen. So here we go. All right, I traced this piece of wood here, this piece of poplar, just to create a little bit of a box. So I'm simply just going to do a little quick rough sketch of crankbait that I'm going to tape, or actually I'll glue it to the wood. That part is pretty much done. That thing is an amazing tool. I am so pumped that I decided to buy one. I can't wait to actually have it in the garage at my own house here soon. My wife and I just bought a house, so we'll be moving in hopefully in a few months. But in the time being, still crushing things in the apartment. But next thing, we're just going to put some chamfer lines on here just to kind of give it some good curvature. And then we will sand it down to give it its basic shape. And then from there, we'll start doing some of the fine tune and the details on the inside with weight. And I'll put a little rattle in there too as well. But baits this size, they're going to kick pretty heavily. They're going to have a lot of movement to it, but a little extra noise doesn't hurt. So, chamfer lines, and then we're going to carve that down. All right, got the shape basically roughly shaped out. Gonna use the belt sander again, clean up some areas. That way it looks a little nicer before I get into the next section. But belt sander to clean up some of the spots. As you can see, I still left it completely basically the same width. I'll use the belt sander just to kind of basically follow a small contour line. I don't know if you can see it, to give it a little bit more shape towards the tail, a little thinness, and that way it'll swim nice and erratically as a square bill. So next steps, hit with the belt sander one more time, and then we're going to hand sand it just to clean it all up. So here we go. Okay, hand sand 120 grit. We're just gonna basically use some pressure and hand sand it down to clean it up. All right, shaped for the most part. As you can kind of see, it's got a decent little taper there. Now I'm going to finish some of the sanding just to smooth it out. I think I'm going to use 220 grit, which I kind of just switched over to just to finish it, and then some 400 grit, and then we'll start to drill the lead hole and kind of work with the hardware on this. So I'll catch you back in just a second. Mark the lip. Lip's going to go there. Try to focus this real quick here too. There we go. Lip will go there. We're going to do weight down here, first hook hanger. This is going to be a 3/8 inch hole where I'm going to insert basically a steel or nickel BB, actually 2 of them, try to get some rattle, and then line tie, and then the last line tie, or that'd be a hook hanger in the rear, excuse me, and the line tie right here. So get to working on basically boring out the weight holes first. All right, those are set. So if you can kind of catch in there, you're going to see that these bits, which actually works very, very well, leave a little bit of a cavity down there. And so what I actually end up doing, especially once we get to the weight, the BBs, yeah, the nickel BBs, I will insert one in there, and I'm going to kind of glue it in, and it'll basically sit right on top of that hole or that cavity and act kind of like a rattle. Not a rattle, it'll just act as something that rattle can hit. It's loud, a metal piece that it's going to kind of bounce off of, and it just amplifies some of that noise. So those pieces are done. I'm going to get out the Dremel now, and that's going to be the next process. We'll Dremel down the line tie and then the 2 hook hangers, and we'll move on from there. All right, coming together pretty good. All right, I'm going to use my Dremel to clean out this lip slot a little bit more. It's this Lexan that I'm using is about an 1/8 inch thick, maybe a little less, I can't remember. But I'm going to need more space than this, so clean it out real quick. Going to fill that cavity with baking soda, and then we're going to seal that part down. Always tap this, tap the bait, helps surround this baking soda directly to where you want it. I'm going to have to file it down here in a bit, which is pretty common. Just going to start with one. That way it seals itself in there and then fills up that small cavity right there. Sits right in there. You can see that. It'll just give it something to basically loud to bounce off of that sound. Lip cut off of some Lexan polycarbonate, and I'm just going to use the disc sander here to get it down to size, as you can kind of see where we're looking at. So turn this on and sand it down. There we go. All right, like I mentioned before, I use these steel 4.5 millimeter BBs as just good rattle. They make a ton of noise. So I've already glued one in down in the bottom down here. Can't hardly see, you can maybe catch it a little bit, but the way that I keep these in, and it sounds crazy, and I think you've already probably seen on my channel the use of Play-Doh. I'll link above where I walk through how to use Play-Doh to make stencils. But this allows me to, if I flatten it out nice and flat, it's going to allow me to basically cover the surface of this hole. And the great thing about Play-Doh, obviously it molds well, but once it is completely dried out, it's just going to basically either be very, very brittle and break apart in here, which then again kind of creates a little bit of extra rattle. But so when I have that basically sealed, I'm going to just peel away the additional leftover Play-Doh and put it back into my container. And what this does is it leaves basically a little cap. And that cap I use to, again, it'll dry itself out. It'll pretty much become its own little wall, but I use that to allow me to use my baking soda and super glue mixture to post it on top. So, like I said, pretty easy, pretty simple. The rattle itself you will not hear until you allow this Play-Doh to dry, which eventually takes about 24 hours. But by the time that is said and done, like you could still, hear a little bit of that in there already. But when that's said and done, you're already clear coated the bait. It's probably already painted at least once. So it's a pretty useful little tool. And again, there's only a few other ways that I've seen where you can cut the bait directly in half. Carve it out, which I've done before in a couple other YouTube videos. Carve it out, then basically reglue the wood together. But this keeps the integrity of this particular piece all as one piece. Again, since I'm doing twist wire ties, hook hangers, line tie, it's not bad. If I were to do a through wire, it'd be a whole different story. But I'm gonna seal that, seal the rest of the wood, glue the hardware in, glue the lip in, and then we will get to painting in a second. But that's where we're at right now. You can hear the rattle a little bit already. So let's continue on. Bait is sealed. Most important steps now, I'm going to sand it down, clean it up a little bit. 440 grit most likely, just to really try to make it nice and smooth. And I'll finish up some loose ends around here just so it's all pretty much protected. can already hear that rattle still doing its job. This is going to be pretty sweet. So we'll catch you back right before we start painting. All right, got our white base coat on. Next paint, I'll go through these pretty quick, but detail raw sienna is my next one, just to go with the yellow base coat on the bottom. Most bluegills have a little yellow tint to them, but I'm gonna mix everything from here on out for the most part. So you'll see a little white in the chamber. I'm trying not to use, waste a ton of paint, not everything I guess, but near the end. But I'm gonna kind of go through the shading process with these, so it'll get darker as I go. So I'll start by mixing these two with a white and the detail raw sienna, and paint the bottom half or bottom section. So that's next up. Pearl lime green. Detail sepia. This will be the detailed portion, so we're going to start by putting on some scales pattern, and simply just going to drop this right on top and gently go over that. All right, scales are down on there for that dark sepia color. Now we're going to make the bluegill bars. Detail moss green. A little bit more detail moss green, darken up some of these areas, just because it's gonna need it. This is basically, again, the piece of paper that I drew this out initially with. We're gonna go stencil the front gill plate, second back gill plate, and then we'll use that as basically the ear too. Just gonna use the same coloration basically that again I have been using. The mixture, have not completely emptied my chamber once yet. Again, that's gonna just help the blend, the natural blend. All right, first section of the gill plate, good. Just gonna cut that section off and around. It's highlighted. That's good. I'm gonna blend the top a little bit more. After all that, this is the first time we're officially gonna empty the chamber and clean it out. So all of that was done, again, combining, using the colors together to make this look a little bit more natural. Pearl orange, We're also going to reduce it a little bit. That's going to go down on the bottom. This is just your general reducer from Createx. So there we go. Just going to basically tint that belly. Really help offset these colors. There it is. So we basically are just going to set the bait down, go get the stencils that we had used prior, and you want to take that stencil and basically offset it inward just a smidge to give you a nice stark line. There we go, gives it a little contrast. We're going to add a little blue to that to give it a little bit more of a kick. Transparent Caribbean blue. That's what it looks like. I am just going to put some eyes on there quick, clear coat it, and then by the time we get to the next section, it'll basically just be clear coated, it'll be done. And then what I will end up doing is just heading to the lake. It is pretty awesome out. The last few days have been perfect. So by the time this thing's done, we should be ready to catch some fish. So stay tuned. See you at the lake.